Boom. Hello. Welcome to Everyday Experts. I am your host, Sir Joker. I apologize for the delay. That is my fault. I was setting up some things on my computer. Our esteemed guest was right on time, and I made her late. Welcome to all of the beautiful new people in the show, in the chat. So we're going to get this started. I'm going to bring on one of the most very interesting and intriguing humans I've ever met. I've known Jennifer a couple of years. Then I've learned that she has a bevy, a cornucopia, a paucity of talents and things that make her more unique than you could even imagine. Um, I choose this quote to introduce her. A mistake that makes you humble is better than achievement that makes you arrogant. So, one of the most humble and imaginative and beautiful spirits and wonderful women that I know. Welcome to Everyday Experts, Jennifer Suchan.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Hello.
you. Hello, strong
Hello.
word. What's going on? How you doing, girl?
I'm doing good. I'm just doing my thing. How are you doing?
I am doing. I'm trying to be like you when I grow up.
What have you been doing since last I saw you, which was what, like 30 hours ago?
What have I been doing? Let's see. I've coached basketball. I've worked. I've done sessions. I've gone out. Oh, hey, pretty fucking hey, girl. Hello, hello,
I gotta see this
hello.
chat.
Yes, the chat. Hello. Let's shout out everybody in the chat. Ooh, here we go. Laura, Sad D, the Bieber Girl Show. Okay, DC Show. Mr.
That's Marilyn Opitz. That's Brent. Hello, Brent. Hello,
Hello,
Marilyn
people.
Opitz. My
Carolyn,
people.
Carolyn Courts might be the most excited human being for you to be on the show right now.
Hello, Carolyn Courts.
um, so let's get into it because you are a very busy human being.
I am ready for your questions.
The first question you are not ready for.
Okay.
If you could be a wolf, a werewolf, a zombie, a vampire, a ghost, a serial killer, or a witch, which would you be and why?
A serial killer.
Yes,
Why
I
is
love
that
it.
even a choice? A
Because
killing?
because it's amazing.
They're Joker.
Serial killers are amazing.
Oh, okay. All right. A ghost.
Why would you be a ghost?
So I could haunt all the people that I love and hate. And the people, I don't hate anybody.
I love it.
I would love to haunt all the people that I love.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
You have many things to go over and many things that you do. But I chose the quote because I do feel that you are one that has, as I've learned doing my research, you're very accomplished. You're very well regarded. You've done a lot for, I call it a movement. You've done a lot for yourself as a person, individualistic.
Okay.
I would ask you, since you do so many things creative wise and entertaining wise, if you could only choose one to be as a professional entertainer, which one would you choose and why?
Oh, that's so interesting. I like to make people laugh. So really, I would just continue doing my comedy.
Oh, okay. Have you done strictly like stand up, or is it just like
No,
more
it's funny.
intertwined?
Everyone keeps asking me to do strictly stand up. And I'm like, I haven't had the opportunity. People, when I'm Aunt Barbara, there's a defense mechanism there. So when
Mm,
I'm in front of a group of people, I'm in front of 200, 300 people, I
right.
have that to kind of fall back on. But to go up as myself and do stand up, I don't know that I'm that, I don't want to put myself out there like that.
Okay. I see. Um, if you could,
If I could be a tree,
Laura,
what kind of tree would I be? Remember that Barbara Walters question? Yes, Laura. If I could be a tree, oh gosh, what kind of tree? I would want to be a bonsai tree because I'm an indoor girl.
me too. I'm not an outdoor
Yeah,
person at
yeah.
all.
A
It's
ficus.
a
I'm fragile and I require, tender loving care.
um. That's a good place. A random question.
Mhm.
You could definitely be a comedian, but are you tender? Are you like a dilettante? Or are you fragile?
You know, I think I am. I think I am. Sure. I think I'm sweet and tender and precious. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, I'm as hard as nails. You know,
Mm,
I'm as tough as rocks.
you are.
Um, we had a conversation the other day.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, if you go on YouTube and you look up the show "What Would You Do," and you look up "What Would You Do Trans," you'll see 2 episodes of me
Mhm.
shopping as a transgender
All right,
woman.
hold on.
Go ahead.
Don't steal my thunder.
Okay, well, I wanted to say I was springboarding off of what you were asking me.
Go ahead.
No, no, just that if you watch that, um, I am doing everything that the director is telling me to do in my ear, which
Mm,
is Jennifer cry, Jennifer walk to the door, Jennifer get sad, Jennifer ask for help. Those are all things I would not do in that situation. If I was asked to leave a store, or if I was being called sir, or if I was told to, that I was going to rip their clothing or something. All
hello,
things.
hello, Mr. Miller. We talked about this, and we can start there because it does kind of lead into your childhood, and I do want your take on gender dysphoria and like what it kind of means to you. But before
Hmm.
we get there, when I was watching the What Would You Do? It's kind of like a scenario situation. You can explain it in a minute. When they were
Sure.
calling you sir, that was hilarious because I was just like, oh, Jen wouldn't stand for that. Like I'm watching the
Okay.
skit
Okay. I was
and
going
I
to say,
was
I
like,
hope you didn't think it was funny that they were deliberately misgendering me, but
I was like, Jen would never stand for that. I was like, no, no.
no, no, I wouldn't stand for it. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I would not be the one crying. They would. Yeah, I wouldn't put up with that.
Whew. So, how did you get into What Would You Do? I know you're an actor.
I have an agent in Manhattan, and I go on auditions just like every other actor out there. And I auditioned for ABC,
Mm-hmm.
and I got the part.
Mm. Now, what did that mean for you for what you stand for and the things that you advocate for? Because I think that people that advocate, loud, "Rah," and then I think that people that advocate quietly with their actions, not with their.
Okay. Well, I'm just me. So if somebody has a problem with me, that's not a person that I would have any respect for anyway. So, in other words, if you're not paying my bills, you're not sleeping with me.
Mhm.
If you don't mean anything to me and you have a problem with me, then you're just some person who's got a problem with me. You're a person with a problem. And I'm not affected that way. I think in the beginning of my transition, it was harder because that that is such a tough time. You
Mhm.
you have to relearn and go through everything you've done over again. You
Mhm.
have to, I mean, who am I at the food store? Who am I at the store? Who am I when I go, going, and still to this day, everywhere I go, it's some places are like doing it for the first time, and there's a lot of fear. There's fear.
Mhm.
Fear, not because I can't handle myself with people, but fear because you don't know what other people are capable of. You don't.
But
You
that,
don't know, and you don't know what other people are thinking. And I have to be careful. I have to be careful. There are people that don't understand that. A woman once asked me. Someone that I worked with once asked me, and I said, "Let me ask you a question. Have you ever walked across the street to go to a place, to a store, to a bar, to a grill, and been called names as you walked across? Have you ever been called faggot? Have you ever had
mm,
people throw things at you? Have you ever? No, no, I've never had that. Have you ever been afraid to go anywhere in public?
mhm.
No. Okay, you don't get it.
No. So going off track for a second,
Sure.
do you think that your experience is a bigger forger, kind of manipulative of who you are, or do you think kind of like who you are as a person?
I'm not understanding your question.
So, do you think like the experiences, like the totality of your experiences from now to today, for example, do you think that's kind of made you Jen, or do you think it's more just kind of like your mindset, or do you think they're like interwoven?
Well, I mean, I think I came into this world with a certain amount of chutzpah,
Mm,
and I quickly learned like a sponge
mm,
what was acceptable and what was and what wasn't acceptable. So when I came to my mother at 3 years old and told her I'm a girl, I learned very quickly that wasn't acceptable. Um,
mm,
and I learned where to put that. And you put that on the back burner, and then I'll deal with that later. And then I put that on the back burner for many, many years. Um, but, I'm a culmination of all of my life's events. And I haven't had some easy life events. I certainly don't want to play a victim. I am not a victim.
mm-hmm,
But growing up, I've had a lot of things go on, things
mm-hmm,
that my family's aware of, things that they're not aware of. Um, I don't share everything. There's time and place for everything. And we all carry that with us. We all walk around. You never know what someone else is going through. You never know what they're carrying with them. And I think people forget that. And I was just talking earlier this evening when I did my little show,
your
how
little show,
my little show,
your
how
little show.
how we need to be a little more understanding of what people need to do to get through their day.
Mm-hmm,
We live in a society now where everyone just breaks everyone down. It used to be that if you didn't have something nice to say, you didn't say anything. Now it's if you have something horrible to say it so that I can laugh or I can top it
mm-hmm.
and I can add to it and that's where we live. That's where we live. That's It's a shame.
So
It's a
I,
shame.
I called this episode "I'm Not a Victim," and one of the things I do want to kind of get into because it's a big part. And interesting enough, so my full disclosure, I didn't know you before you made your transition. I've only known you the last couple of years, so
Sure.
I've always known you as Jen.
Right.
So now, what does the idea of gender dysphoria mean to you, and what does the idea of transgender mean to you? Like, how would you define it? What is it like? How would you want people to understand it as your experience?
Okay. Um, Gender dysphoria for me
Mm-hmm.
was it's kind of cliche, but growing up and feeling as though I was in the wrong body my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up and feeling as though um, it didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then I let somebody know. When I was very little, I thought I could change it. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought it would change. I just thought that being a boy was part of being a girl, and I'll be a girl when I'm ready. I'll suddenly, boom, ta-da, here I am.
Right.
And that didn't happen. Um, it's a hard way to grow up because my wiring told me I wanted to do certain things,
Mm-hmm.
and I was told that those things were one, inappropriate. Two, I was made to feel bad about them. So you carry that with you. You learn where to put it. I put it away for 46 years. I put
Mm-hmm.
it away for 46 years.
Um, when did you know it didn't? Like you said, it didn't. You didn't feel like you were in the right body, and
Yep.
I do not pretend to understand that feeling. I always felt like an Achilles. I don't know, and you know me outside of this, so I'm very much me all the time.
Sure. Sure.
What was it like for you to not feel like you're in the right body, not feel right, and not being able to be who you felt like you really were?
A lot of what kills me is a lot of people have opinions on this, and
Mm-hmm.
it's often people that can't understand, they can't fathom, they can't take themselves out of that. You were born this, therefore you're that.
Right.
No, 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 no.
Mm-hmm.
It that worked out for you.
Mm-hmm.
If that worked out that way for you, then you feel good about that and you walk on by. But
Mhm.
understand that that doesn't happen for everybody. It
Mhm.
doesn't. It really, really doesn't.
Okay.
And it didn't for me. So what I wasn't given and I went out to get.
Mm. Did you ever, and this is a question you don't have to answer if you don't want, did you ever feel
Sure.
like, I don't know if you're religious, did you ever feel mad at like a higher being or something because maybe you were in the wrong body?
Just this morning, I'm only kidding. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was raised Catholic. I went, yeah, I the sacraments and went to,
Mm.
um, yeah. I come from a very large 7 children family.
Mm.
We went to church every Sunday. If you lived under my father's roof, you went to church. Um, so I grew up with a lot of guilt, having carrying this around inside of me.
Carrying, that's interesting that you say that, carrying that you're really Jennifer.
Well, and wondering, why was I born this way?
Mm.
Why do I instinctively feel like I'm female? And why do I gravitate toward everything female?
Right.
And why do I feel like this body is not what I should have? You know, I think a lot of people that are out there think very simply, like I said, if you're born this, you then become that. And that's not the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the, the, the way that I feel inside was not the way that I appeared outside.
Mm. So when it comes to somebody who has kind of made it their, all right, I used Caitlyn Jenner because most people know who Caitlyn Jenner is. Whether you support or don't support Caitlyn Jenner, when somebody puts it kind of out there like that,
Okay.
how do you? What's your take on that? How do you feel about that? Do you feel a way about it, or do you feel like her experience is her experience?
Her experience is her experience. Her
Okay.
experience is her experience. Um, I'm not going to, look, I don't share a lot of her viewpoints.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that right now. She's entitled to her opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, her experience is very different than my experience. However, I think there are certain things that are very common.
Mm-hmm.
Being that, from a young age, she knew. From a young age, I knew. And some of her experiences that she talked about, very similar to mine, very similar.
I was watching the Northwell did a special. That's at one of the hospitals around here, and you were talking about. I don't know if that was part of the unsealed. No, that wasn't part of the unsealed. That was part of the other thing you were part of. The Northwell talking to interview. Um,
Yeah.
I saw an interview. Northwell's one of the hospitals. They assisted you with your surgery, correct?
Yes, and I served as a community board member for the
Mhm.
Center for Transgender Care. I'm involved with them.
Okay.
hmm
Um, what was that? What's that like? Being part of the Center for Trans. That sounds awesome.
I mean, thank goodness they're there. That's a wonderful group of doctors. It's a wonderful center. It's anything and everything that I need, I can
Mm-hmm.
go to them for, whether it's doctors, referrals, support. My primary care doctor is there. They have helped me get needed surgeries and support for the past several years, and thank God they're there. Prior to that, I used to have to go into Manhattan
Mm-hmm.
to Callan Lord, which is also wonderful, but that's quite a trip for me to travel to go from Long Island all the way into Manhattan just to visit a doctor if I have a sore throat or something. So,
Or do you find that you being so outright and forthcoming about your transition and who you are, do you find that that makes it some harder for people to understand your plight? Makes it easier, or do you think people just don't get it still? No
you
matter
know,
how.
some people get it, some people, it's like with anything else in this world. Some
Mm,
people get you, some people don't get you, some people will never get you. Some people think they get you, You know, that's true of anybody.
Hmm.
Um, and the truth of the matter is, I don't know what you say. I don't know what you say about me behind my back. That's fine. What
Right.
you say about me behind my back is none of my business. How's that? You know?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so what age were you about when you felt like, this shit isn't right? This doesn't feel right. Just, there's a
Three,
diva side of me.
4,
Hey,
3 or 4.
so okay, I'm gonna go into scientific nerds and
Go
people that
ahead.
say that, oh, 3 is too young, you can't know who you are because you're still developing as a person and stuff like
Well,
that.
a 3-year-old knows if they want to wear a dress or a pair of farmer's overalls or play with
Mhm,
trucks or play with Barbies. So that's fine. That's fine. They can say whatever they want because they innately know who they are.
mhm,
I innately knew who I was. You can't comment on my experience. Everyone wants to chalk it up to mental illness, and that I love. You
mhm,
cannot comment on my experience. Let me tell you, I'm a bright person. I'm no dummy.
mhm,
I'm a very aware person. I know myself. I'm very perceptive. This is who I've been since I was a child. Since I was a child. I don't understand why people think that, they automatically say it's mental illness. Well, okay. So it's a mental illness that I've had since I was 3 that I've just been carrying around. I'm now 54 years old, still carrying around this mental illness, right? Um, they can't fathom that someone can actually feel and be a woman or a man and be in a different body.
mm. Um, and this will be probably one of the I want to do ask a little bit about your parents' role in this, but I do. A little boy comes in and says, "Hey, Jen, I'm feeling different. I'm feeling like I'm in the wrong body." What kind of I don't want to say advice. What kind of words of wisdom would you give them?
Well, I mean, I've gotten that quite a bit before in my lifetime where people have asked me. A lot of people reach out and ask me. I have a daughter, or I have a son, I have a
Mm,
cousin, a niece, a nephew, a friend of mine's daughter or son. Um, Look, all you can do is be supportive of that person. All
mhm,
you can do is listen. All you can do is see where that goes and how that unfolds. But I can tell you that that's the last thing I
mhm,
wanted to tell my mother. That was the last thing I wanted to carry with me my entire life. Why would I want to be different than everybody else?
mm,
You know, why would I want to be feeling as though I'm in the wrong body? Why would you want to live a life like that? Life is tough enough.
yeah.
This world is tough enough. People are horrible enough in this world that I'm going to add that to my plate. You know,
Mm, it's true.
Um, I think that people just need to be supportive of their children and listen to their children and go from there. And do I think that you need to bring children to doctors? Yes, of course I do. Do I think that you need to approach this, and not rush into everything? Of course I do. You're not,
Mhm,
you have to see how this unfolds. Let that child unfold. Let that child show you who they are before you
mhm,
start to control what happens in that child's life and who that child becomes, because that's not your responsibility as a parent. Your responsibility as a parent should be to support that child in who that person is. There are enough people out there that have had enough difficulty in their lives because parents put expectations on them, and take their expectations or their disappointments, and they visit them on their children.
mhm,
Listen, my father, whom I love so much, he did what a father, he thought, should do: sign me up for football, sign me up for baseball. And he
mhm.
clearly saw that I just wasn't going
Well,
down that road, and he backed off. He didn't continue to push it, and I'm grateful for that. I'm pretty grateful for that. I'm sure his expectations of who I would be as a human being are very different than who I am as a human being. But we have to accept that in each other.
Well, what role did they play? First of all, how did I know being a dad, it probably affects you different. How did your parents take that? How did
Well,
they
my mother passed away before I, you know,
Okay.
several years before I started to transition.
Hmm.
Which is kind of a shame in a way too, because she was the one person that I told as a child. So I always felt like when everyone said to me, "This can't be true. No, this isn't right. This isn't right." You know, it. You know what's funny is it shocked everybody. Yet the first thing I said to them was, "I made a successful career being a drag queen, dressing up as a woman. I'm attracted to men. Not that that matters with gender. I'm just, gender and sexuality are two different things. But I make my money dressing as a woman. I'm attracted to men. Why is it so hard for you to believe that I have always felt as though I should have been female and that I identify as a female? Why does that shock you? Well, it just does. Well, okay, but get over it. Get
Hmm.
over it because this is who I am. So my mother never knew, and I kind of felt I felt like if she were here, she's the one person that would have explained to everybody. Oh yeah, I did kind of know that. Yeah, yeah. Jennifer did bring that up to me a couple times.
Mm, I
A
like it.
couple times. Um, yeah, and my father, look, like I said, he did the best he could.
Hmm.
We have it definitely. Our relationship has really we kind of went our separate ways a little. We've come
Hmm.
back a little bit.
Okay.
um I don't have the relationship that I had with him,
Hmm.
but whatever relationship I do have with him, I'm grateful for.
Mm.
And it took me a few years to get to that point. um he I'm a different person. He's a different person. I can't fault him for the fact that he can't fathom it. He cannot. A lot of and the truth is, a lot of men, and particularly men of a certain age,
Hmm.
where this wasn't
I think.
it wasn't relevant in society, and it wasn't something that he was familiar with. He has a hard time dealing with that, and I respect that. And I'm his child, and in his mind, he lost his son.
Mm.
So who would I be if I said, well, you have to accept me for who I am 100%? And this, no, 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 no,
Mm.
no, no. But you have to understand that I'm the one who's going to live the rest of my life.
Hmm.
And I'm the one that has to lay my head on a pillow at night. And I'm the one that wakes up as myself every day and puts myself out there. And I have to do that the way that it makes sense for me. And if that hurts you, I'm sorry. And if that affects you, I'm sorry. But I have to be me.
Yeah. Was that a hard conversation to have with him? Was that
That wasn't a conversation, unfortunately. It
he's
was.
just
I wrote him a letter.
oh, okay.
I wrote him a letter, long, long, long letter.
Mm.
So, did he read the letter? I don't know. I
Mm.
don't know.
Did it
But
feel did it feel unearthing like you
oh, it was very cathartic writing that. That was I bared my soul.
good
I
for you.
mean, every yeah. I put it all down, and I don't know. I look. Some things people can handle. Some things people can't handle, and we need to remember that as people that you can't expect everyone to handle what you've got.
Mm.
Maybe my baggage doesn't fit in your overhead compartment.
Mm.
Maybe yours doesn't fit in mine. That's the way life is. That's the way life is. But you cannot be violent towards me, aggressive towards me. You cannot deny me my rights.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you get into that. You can have your opinions all you want.
Mm-hmm.
Keep them to yourself. Share them with your friends behind closed doors. I don't need to hear it out in public. I don't deserve that. You know.
Mm. Talk your shit, girl. Go ahead, talk your shit, Jen. Um, the quote goes, "Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, 'I will try again tomorrow.'"
Mm.
What keeps you trying again tomorrow? What keeps you going for the next day?
What keeps me going for the, faith and hope, right? I think we all hope that our lives are going to get better. Um, I dread the day, if it ever comes, that I wake up and don't have hope that things are going to get better and that I'm going to improve myself and I'm going to um, do good for other people
Mm,
and love other people. What gets me going every day is love. And it's not just, loving myself and learning to love myself a little more and be better to myself, but it's the people that I love. And it's that I feel that I'm capable of giving a lot and I want to do that.
mm. You do give a lot. We're going to go into how you kind of work with people in a little bit. Um, I don't want to make the whole show about being transgender and all that, because I feel like, yes, that's a huge part of you, but I think that's only a part of you.
Right,
I,
right.
I think there's a totality and a completeness and a wholeness to all the stuff that you bring. I feel people have auras, and I feel like you have a bright aura, and very much a lot of respect to you. And a lot of people, well, because I had Jimmy on last week. He's transgender, and Jimmy was
Yes.
a joke. He was like, "Oh, how progressive you two transgender people!" But I don't. I look at you as Jim, and I look at Jimmy as Jimmy. And the fact that you happen to be transgender, you know, I think that is to my benefit because I get to learn. Because learning stuff is how I kind of go day to day. So my question is, what have you learned about yourself today that maybe you didn't know a year ago, or 2 years ago?
I learned that I had a privilege that I didn't realize that I had.
Mm.
And that privilege was white male privilege. And I know there are people out there that love to, especially white men who love to say, "Oh, that doesn't exist," or "Oh,
Mhm.
forgive me for being." No, 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 no. What I'm saying is I I I I really did have that. And until I didn't have that, I didn't realize it was there, really, to that extent. I also didn't realize just how awful some people can be toward other people in the world that are different, because I wasn't considered different growing up and in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. I was acceptable. I was the norm. I was what you wanted to, no, nobody would have looked twice at me walking in somewhere, right? Um, if I walk into a department store now, I get cased, I get watched, I get looked at, whereas that never
My
happened to me
world.
before.
Mhm.
And I was never treated nasty before.
What's that like? I mean, that's a good point. I do think that the so when we, I feel like, when we talk about transgender fluid, all these
Sure.
different things, I do think you get a commonality with, you know, racism, right? How it is. Listen, this doesn't come off, right? And people will look at me, especially because I'm not a little dude. I'm a big dude, so that's imposing enough for a lot of people. So, you know, do you feel that? Because I know I feel. Do you feel like commonality with maybe like minorities and?
Oh, I absolutely do. I absolutely, with anyone that is in a marginalized community, or a minority community, I definitely feel that. But that's what it's opened my eyes to. That's what it's really, really opened my eyes to. Um, because I now look, I grew up in Freeport, Long Island, extremely diverse. Extremely diverse. I mean, I don't want to get into percentages, but we're talking about, I went to school with plenty of Black people, plenty
Mhm.
of Latino people, plenty of Asian people, plenty of people, from India and from other countries, and it was a melting pot here. And when I first went to work outside of this town, because when you grow up in Freeport, when you grow up on Long Island and you live in a town, you live in that town.
Yep.
I didn't get out much until I got a car and drove. I took a job a few towns over, and it dawned on me, and it wasn't until weeks after waiting tables at Friendly's in Belmore, I said to one of the waitresses, "Where are all the Black people?" And she said, "Oh, they don't come here. They don't live here in Belmore. They don't stop." I'm like, what are you talking about? I couldn't fathom that, because it was, yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea that the rest of the world wasn't as diverse.
And what's crazy, and one of the things that I find is that so many people have normalized it in their head to not have any people of color around at all, and be like,
Yeah, yeah.
"What do you mean? Well, I don't understand. Why would they come here? Because it's a place in the world, but they're not there." But as always, you bring insight and wisdom to a lot of people every day. I do want to go into helping people, but I do want to talk about you're doing a lot. You do a lot of creative stuff, and we started off with being entertainer. So I would ask, was there a movie that you saw, or a play, or something that was on screen that made you really resonate with? Oh, that's Jen. That's me.
Well, what's odd is, I mean, I've always identified being part of the LGBTQ community,
Mm-hmm.
and growing up, we didn't have internet in my day. Not until my late 20s was that really becoming a popular and growing thing.
Right.
You couldn't just, and I couldn't put a name to it. I didn't know what transgender meant. But I knew that I identified as a female
Mm-hmm.
and that I was attracted to men.
Mm-hmm.
So when I finally saw gay people on television,
Oh.
I went, that's me, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm born in this body that I don't belong in, and I'm attracted to men, and that's called gay. And I have to tell you, for all of those years until I had an awakening, I thought that every single gay man that I knew, that I came into contact with, I thought they all felt like me. I
Mm-hmm.
thought they all felt like they wanted to be female, and that this was what we had. This was the best we could do. And, you know, I felt that way. And I
Mm-hmm.
just assumed that it was unspoken, that it was there and it was unspoken. And my best friend of 30 years, when I came out to him, I said to him, I said, I'm going to do it. He said, do what? I said, I'm going to transition. And it shocked him. And I said to him, I said, come on, don't we all want to trans? And he's like, I don't want to be a woman. I'm not a woman.
Mm.
Said, you feel like a woman? I said, I always have.
What was that like? Like, what was that?
He was
Oh,
shocked.
what was
Shocked.
that moment like? Because I know I've told, I so it's not the same thing, but
It's
experience.
not.
It's not the same thing. So I'll say, like, when I experience people who you, you're not black enough, you don't
Oh, oh,
is
oh, oh.
black enough, kind of thing. It's just like, well, what do you mean? Like, is there like a certain number of things I have to do? Is there like a tint I have to add? Like, what is kind of like the
What
thing?
defines you as black?
My skin color, I guess.
No,
Or
but I'm saying, but
yeah,
but
yeah,
that
exactly.
but that's what they're asking you.
Yeah,
What's their definition of black?
yeah,
Well, what's your definition of trans?
yes.
Look, life is a spectrum. Everything has a spectrum. Um, Part of the reason I think that so I'm protective of myself. There are a lot of trans women out there that, we get a little flack for being overly glamorous or overly provocative or overly, we put ourselves together and we're just, going overboard with the femininity or with
Mm-hmm.
with the way we put ourselves together. And I'm like, well, that's a defense mechanism for a lot of trans women,
Mhm.
because not we're judged. So if you're too feminine, you're too feminine. You know, oh, that's not what women look like.
Yeah.
And if you're not feminine enough, it's like, well, how can you call yourself a woman? You don't even know how to put yourself together. There's so many, but safety wise,
Mhm.
safety wise, I can tell you this, that if I'm out with friends
Mhm.
and there's a man there that realizes that I'm transgender and he gets angry, I got to tell you, physical cleavage
Yeah.
disarms people. It really does. A
Yeah.
little bit of a little bit. The minute someone it throws people off. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? All those little subtle things that you do, it's protection. A
Mm.
lot of it is protection.
Mm. Mm. Um.
That's why when I look at people who are out, who are non-binary,
Mhm.
who are gender fluid,
Mhm.
who those are people who can experience the worst
Mhm.
as far as bigotry and hatred out there.
Mhm.
They experience it, you know, just to a level that I I can't imagine, because I know what I've experienced, so I can't imagine what their experiences must be like.
Mhm. That, and it's so hard when you don't want to be put into a group, but you have to be in a group in order for it not to be hard.
Right,
It's just
right, right, right,
what.
right. Listen, if you've met I am a transgender woman. I identify as a transgender woman. I know who I am. I was a man. I lived as a man for 46 years. I had to in order to survive. However, I am now, I identify as female. I've always identified as female, but
Right.
I'm a transgender female. I know that. I know that's how I identify. So whenever I see things on applications and things, and it's like male, female, I will put female and I'll put right underneath trans. That's what I am. That's who I am.
So, when, as you were a child, when did you say, you know what, I want to start entertaining people? Because Aunt Barbara, who you are.
Well,
That doesn't come out of nowhere. You not just wake up one day. You know what? I'm gonna dress up as a Long Island woman and sell Tupperware.
I hope that there's people out there that I went to high school with or grade school that are watching, um, and that they'll eventually comment. But in school, that was my way of not getting beaten up, was being funny.
Mm,
If
mm,
I was funny, it disarmed people. It would make them laugh. Um, I was good at it. I was good at making people laugh. I was good at doing silly things. It was also my mechanism to cope with, honestly, what I was considering just ending my life throughout my whole
mm.
childhood. My whole childhood,
You were
I had
suicidal?
suicidal ideation through my teenage years, all through my childhood. I often thought, well, I could just have a little accident. I it's what I had to do in order to have people not treat me poorly, was make them laugh.
One of the things you said when you were talking about the what would you do, you said I'm not a victim when you were describing.
Oh, I'm not a victim.
I
Yeah.
know you're not. So when did that mind shift? Because if you committed suicide, right,
Yeah.
you would have been a victim of you because of everything that was perpetrated on you. When did you
Well,
become
everything that was perpetrated on me and everything that I internally could not
right?
express. Here's something I said during an interview one time, was that I did actually attempt suicide at 15, and I was at that time put in the hospital for 4 months. 4 months in those days. They put you away for 4 months. They put me away for 4 months. And if I had succeeded in taking my life, I
Mm,
would never have been counted as a transgender person in this world.
mm,
No one would have any idea why I did that. They
mm,
would never have known that this was why. This
mm.
was what she was carrying with her.
How so? Again, we're going to transition a little bit into you're involved in. I know you've been acting a long time,
Oh, Aunt Barbara?
TV shows. Not we could go into Aunt Barbara. I was talking more like the acting, and I know you're doing a movie, but we could talk about Aunt Barbara first. And you had a whole documentary. I think it was 16 hours called Unsealed. You can Google it, right?
Yeah.
Unsealed. It
Yeah.
was about how you took over the world as I don't know, and I don't. You're gonna have
Well,
to
and I have my
how it
YouTube
started.
channel as Aunt Barbara. Here's what happened with that. In 1995, my sister had a Tupperware party. I went to the Tupperware party. The woman was lovely who was doing the Tupperware demonstration, but she didn't engage or entertain the people. And and I love the products and bought a whole bunch. And she's like, "You're really funny. You would be good at this. Do you want to sign up?" And I said, "Well, if I sign up, I'm going to sell it as Aunt Barbara, which was this drag character that my best friend Robert, the one who he's gone 3 years now, passed away. Um, we used to back in the day when there was no YouTube, we would make these little videos and mail them to our friends, like Aunt Barbara's Christmas Spectacular and Aunt Barbara, Christmas on a Budget, and we would do all these funny shows, and we would make box sets of VHSs and mail them to friends. So I had been doing Aunt Barbara. So I said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to sign up as Aunt Barbara. I
Mm.
signed up and then I never sold because so many people talked me out of it and said, you know, Tupperware will never go for this. You're never going to sell anything. What are you going to do? Drive around and drag and do these parties? Are you kidding? And it was the mid 90s. Years later, when I was working in direct care, and then I had become a residential administrator, I still needed more money. We live on Long Island. Things were
Mhm.
expensive.
So,
So I said, I'm going to revisit that idea and I'm going to sell Tupperware and I'm going to do it as Aunt Barbara. And once I started doing it, it took me a little while to get it off the ground, about 5 or 6 months after it started to fly. And I was booking 6 months out, a year out. I told a friend, I'm going to be the top seller of this product in the US. You wait and see. And I was
I'm not surprised. Like
for many years in a row.
you have a lot of conviction. Was the conviction what got you to this point?
Yes. Yeah.
You
If I put my mind to something, I will make it happen. If I'm that determined, I feel as though I can do almost anything, really.
knew.
Almost anything.
Yep, like
I mean, I'm 54 years old and I transitioned with with some support from some friend.
mhm.
I don't want to say I have any support. I have people that are supportive. Close people, supportive. My siblings have gotten so much more supportive as time has gone on. In the beginning, I don't think they knew what the hell had hit them. They didn't know what to do. But when I had sexual reassignment surgery, some people call it gender confirmation. I call it my gender confirming sexual reassignment. When I had that done in 2020, my sisters were so good to me. Really,
Mhm.
just so good to me. And
You
and
got
and
sisters and brothers?
my brother died. My brother
Oh.
Bill, he was the oldest, and he was tall like you.
Mm.
Bill was over 6'5", and he played
Oh.
sports. Yeah, big, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, handsome man. Um, he played sports. He had some challenges. He had some. He had some. He was never formally diagnosed. I have a feeling he had Asperger's and some mental health, behavioral health concerns, and that tortured him. For many many years. Um, but yeah, my sisters are very wonderful to me. I'm very. I've learned over the years that family. I mean, they have my back. They have
Mhm.
my back.
Has there been has there been a commonality or like a through line between you sort of I think you like quietly seeking help and you helping people? Has there been a connective tissue in that?
I I want I, to keep myself safe. I made people laugh,
Mm.
and as a child, that kept me safe. Was making people laugh, being a funny kid, and then as an adult, it was a way of getting acceptance.
Mm.
Doing Aunt Barbara served so many things. One, I'm a great salesperson. Two, I got to dress up and be outlandish and feminine. I made tons of money, but the best of all, rooms full of people crying, laughing, wetting their pants. I had a woman wet her pants. You know, I put on a good show. I put on a good show. Having that acceptance of people. And when I came out, and I came out publicly, being transgender, so many wonderful people were so supportive because they felt like they knew Aunt Barbara. And they thought, if this is who she is, then this is who she is, you know. And then there were people who walked away from me, and that's fine. There were friends that walked away from me, friends that have nothing to do with me. There was a friend that said to someone, "Oh, I have enough girlfriends. What do I need?" Oh, okay, okay. If my gender was a big part of our friendship, then perhaps it wasn't really a friendship, right? Yeah.
I concur with that. Um, your movie you're currently working on, and another question about entertaining.
Okay.
I had a client I worked with. She was at I worked at Five Towns for a little bit. She was an acting student. She had a nickname. She would always go by her nickname. When I asked for her real name, she goes, "Oh, I don't really like to use my real name. I'm this person." So I would say, "Well, you're not being yourself." Do you like the entertaining acting aspect because it gave you an escape to be somebody else, or
Oh,
to?
absolutely. It gave me a reason to express femininity. It gave me a reason hiding behind that giant beehive and all the crazy costumes and all of
Aunt
that.
Barbara's a hot mess. I love it.
What was that?
Aunt Barbara's a hot mess, but I love her.
Being able to hide behind that, it's a shield. I felt as though I could say anything I wanted. I mean, within reason,
Yeah.
and do anything. And as long as, because it came from a place of love and joy, you know, at a very early age, my mother said to me, I worry about you because you're so sensitive.
Mm.
And you and I was a sensitive kid. I wanted everyone to be happy. I wanted to help everybody. I didn't want to see anybody sad or anybody upset, or and then when people bullied me, I could not understand it. I
Mm.
couldn't fathom it that people could be so mean.
Mm. Mm. What is your favorite type of thing to do? Is your favorite type of thing to do a movie? Is it to produce? Is it to direct? Is it to?
Well, this is the first time I have co-written a movie.
Yeah, talk to me.
I'm co-directing a movie. Okay, so if you go on Amazon, I started a short film called Backup Plan. And in that movie, I'm a victim. Oh, I know. I'm always playing victims, whatever. In that movie, I'm a transgender woman who's a teacher who loses her job because they find out she's trans.
Mhm.
So I'm losing my apartment. I can't pay my bills. I'm being evicted, and I'm plotting my suicide. And
Mm.
that plan gets interrupted. Well, I was working with a wonderful, fantastic actor, musician, director, writer, David Beck. So,
Mhm.
David Beck and I, after we did the short film, which we toured around the country, even went to Germany film festivals, I won Best Actress at the Astoria Film Festival. Thank you.
Hold on.
Yeah,
I'm giving you your applause.
fast claps.
Take your flowers.
David and I sat and we wrote the full length feature. And in the full length feature, we replaced me with a younger transgender woman of color who we cast as Alexandra Gray. She's an actress, she's fantastic. So she's the lead role in this full length feature that we wrote. And we just last week did a wonderful fundraiser for the movie at Leonard Bernstein's penthouse apartment in
Mm.
Manhattan.
Mm.
We've raised quite a bit for the movie, but we were ready to shoot last year, but at the last minute, one of the backers pulled out,
Mm.
which who knows why. But so we're still fundraising, just the remaining to start filming.
Jimmy, stop jocking Jen. Leave my Jen alone.
What did Jimmy say?
Can you bring up what Jimmy said, Matt? If you're back there, I'm not sure who's back there. Jimmy said, "I know her." You're gonna meet Jimmy in a little bit.
Okay. Oh,
Uh,
Jimmy Nails.
yes, Jimmy
Okay.
Nails is um he's another. So I'm finding this, and I am not pretending to know a bevy of trans people. The trans people I
Okay.
do know seem to have like a cat's number of lives in life experience, like so many different things.
Oh yeah.
Why do you think that is? Just speaking for yourself.
Well, because I think I know I can't speak for everybody. Ooh, excuse me. When you meet a transgender person, you've met exactly one transgender person.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I have led. I mean, I even just when I look at pictures of myself over the past 54 years, I, I've I feel like I've been so many different people. I've represented as so many different people. Everything from a football player to a, you know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so many different things. Because when you can't, for me, when I couldn't express who I really was and present who I really was, I had to find something. I kept hopping from thing to thing, trying to find what would be okay, what would make me all right.
Mm. You and Bobby, your doppelganger, you and Bobby are sitting down at dinner. What's
Hmm.
Bobby talking about?
I'm sitting down with Bobby. What's Bobby? Well, first he would pick me apart. He'd be like, "What are you wearing?"
Let's make
That's
it
what
even
you
more
cho-
fun.
that's what you chose to wear.
You,
What?
Bobby, Barbara are sitting down for dinner.
Oh, forget it. Oh,
What's the conversation about?
what's the conversation about? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. You know that? Wow, wow, wow. I, I I actually would love that. That would be quite the conversation. That would be quite the dinner. Yeah, yeah.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. That's kind of hard to talk about, because
Hmm.
all three. I still feel as though, Aunt Barbara lives in me every day,
I
uh,
know.
and this is just an extension of Bobby, is what this is. So, um, because look, when you transition, you don't throw away who you were. I,
Hmm.
that kills me too. People think, oh, there are things that change, but you're ultimately you're still the same person.
Hmm.
I'm still the same person I was. I'm just presenting differently. There are different, and I'm having different experiences, and I'm perceived differently.
Mm.
But innately, I have the same morals, the same ethics, the same cares, the same likes, the same dislikes. I'm still overly sensitive. I'm still a caring individual, a person who really, wears their heart on their sleeve. That's who I am.
Mm. Good answer. It's like you practiced this your whole life.
No, I, no, I
So
practiced being me my whole life.
right, it's so weird. You're you, and you're good at
Oh,
it. um. Now, do these your experiences? You're in a professional development department now. You're teaching, you're educating, you're infusing knowledge. Has those experiences prepared you to teach people? Do you think?
well, you also know that I started graduate school at,
Yes.
at my young tender age. Um, my goal right now, I love teaching.
Okay.
Um, I often felt as though I should have gone into education years ago.
Hmm.
But I started out as a direct care staff.
Hmm.
I loved the field, working with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Hmm.
I just kept moving up the ladder. Loved what I did. Still love what I do, and I feel as though I am in the perfect place.
You are.
Yeah, because because I have 30 years of knowledge and experience in that field that I can teach, convey to others,
Hmm.
and really help people Thank you. But I want to help people get a good start in this field because I worry about the future of the field. The other thing
Oh.
that I want to do in going to graduate school is I want to write a curriculum,
Ooh.
a training to be done related to this field, working with people who are LGBTQ and
Mm.
working with people who are LGBTQ. I think there's a lot of, and we know about unconscious bias. Nowadays, it seems like unconscious bias is something we all carry with us. I mean, we all have a level of unconscious bias, but it seems to be in fashion now to be consciously biased.
Mm.
It seems to be the fashionable thing to be, unfortunately, when it comes to social media and it comes to this world, and people are celebrated for their bigoted beliefs sometimes. I want to cut through some of that.
Do you think that, and I don't know if we've talked about this, but I've spoken about it, our guys that we work with,
Mhm.
autistic, all of these different things. And do you think that they tend to find, you know, support and understanding in the LGBTQAI plus?
Here's what I'll say on that. When I started in this field, and I say this when I do my presentations, when I do an abuse and neglect training, I let people know in this field, I felt so welcomed because the individuals that you're supporting,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a good human being, right? And you are supportive of them and you're teaching them and encouraging them and guiding them, and they know that you're there for direct care, and your heart is in it. They appreciate for who you are, not how you present.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we need to now bring that to our staff for the individuals, that they need to realize that it works both ways. They are accepting of you as long as you're a good human being, a good person. They don't carry that with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not something, if you're a good person, you're a good person to them. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a two-way street. It's a two-way street.
Excellent. What's the most rewarding position you've had in the helping field?
Oh gosh.
I know.
Yeah, that's hard. I've loved every position I've done, but
What has brought the most to you? Maybe that's helped you figure out stuff about yourself, because we learn a lot from our guys.
well, I mean, direct care. I can't. I wish I could do it the rest of my life. Really, unfortunately, right? You have to move up. You have to, they're just now fighting and getting a living wage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that every job that I do is for the individuals that we support, right? Benefits them. Working as an investigator, I still do investigations. Why? Because I have a passion for that. I want to do right by the people that we support. And I want the people coming in to do right by the people that we support. And when they don't, my cookies get frosted and I don't tolerate it,
My cookies get.
really.
Describe Jen in 3 words. Describe Aunt Barbara in 3 words, and describe Bobby in 3 words.
Okay. Oh gosh, Jen.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Oh, I appreciate that. Um, Too much, not enough, big heart.
All true.
And I gotta say, but I would use those same adjectives for all three.
Mm,
Really,
okay.
all three.
How much of Aunt Barbara kept you going these years?
A lot of Aunt Barbara well, financially kept me going.
Mm.
Unfortunately, though, being a top seller and selling, I've sold millions of dollars in Tupperware, and we're talking, $30 bowl sets. I think my biggest year I personally sold was $360,000 in Tupperware in 1 year. That's almost $1,000 a day in product that I sold. But I was working a lot. I only had 1 or 2 days off a month. Sometimes I take a week off here. With holidays, I take a week off, but I was working every night. So I was never around my friends or family. I was always gone doing parties because I worked evenings. But I was also running away from a lot. I was running away from this, I don't often admit this, but 10 years ago, I would be drinking a bottle of wine a day. I would drink a bottle of vodka every 2 days. Anything I could do to bury all of this. And I think I had to hit rock bottom in order to realize I've got to make a change. And if I'm going to be my authentic self, I have to do everything I can to put that behind me, move forward, and do what I have to do. Because transition is one of the most physically, mentally, emotionally, financially difficult things anyone can do. A friend of mine said this to me when I came out to him. People will walk away from you. You have to be ready for that. You have to be ready to not be earning what you earned. You have to be ready to be alone more of the time. And I think I've overcome all those challenges.
Who was the hardest person for you to stomach walking away?
My father.
Do you think he's ever going to walk back?
Well, he has. We have we have an odd relationship. I cook for him once a week.
Oh, nice.
Because he's older and he was going through a health care crisis. And once a week I cook for him and he writes me lovely notes. And I live across the street from him.
That's awesome.
I live across the street from the house I grew up in where my father lives. We don't have a relationship, but we have a relationship. And I'll take what I can get. And if me spending a Saturday or a Sunday cooking and baking for him, like my mother would do, that's love. And he accepts that. So if that's where the relationship, I'm okay with that. That. But it hurt for many years because we didn't have that. And, I remember I reached out to him and he wouldn't talk with me. I texted him and I said, I'm afraid I'm never going to talk to you again. And he said, I can't handle it. And I got to tell you, that was the most honest thing that anyone has said, He said, I can't handle it. And I have to.
Oh, did I freeze? What happened?
Are we still on?
Yeah, we're still on. Sorry, we lost Joker for a second.
No,
How you doing, Jen? Great show.
Thank you. You. I'm going to wrap it up with him. It's been an hour. It's time to wrap it up.
All right, you want to wrap it up? You call the shots. All right.
Okay.
You want any last plugs or anything you want to do?
Well, is he there? Where is he? He's gone.
Nah, he is not. I'm sorry. He's left the building.
Gone. Okay. Oh, am I live right now? With
okay, he's back now. Okay. 1 second.
Sorry.
And I'm out.
Thank you, Matt. Sorry.
There you are.
Yeah, I froze. Or you froze. One of us froze. I froze.
I think we both froze. I froze. You froze. We all froze. All right, listen. It's been an hour. I'm going to get going.
You hold on a second.
I've got to get my beauty sleep. You're going to have me on again and do a double feature.
Jennifer, you hold on.
What would you like? I will. Yes.
Like you to
one more question.
No, not one more question. I want you to promote your stuff. Tell me about your show when it's on.
Ooh.
Your
well, I have a lovely community of people that follow me on Facebook. I have 2 Facebook pages, Jennifer Suchan, and then I had Aunt Barbara, but Facebook took Aunt Barbara away, and so now that one's called Jennifer Bobby Suchan, and you'll see me in my big dark Aunt Barbara hair.
Oh, your effervescent, zhuzhed up.
So yeah, you can watch me every Saturday at 9 o'clock. I do a show. I have a lovely group of people. We call them the Aunt Barbara family. They follow me. They're my friends, people I love. We spent the pandemic together
Okay.
and got close.
We will have you back on.
Okay. I'm also on YouTube. Look up Aunt Barbara.
Current, I want you to stay on after we end the show because I want James to meet you. I told him, but if he's not there, it's not my fault.
Okay. Well, you let me know when you're going to end the show. I do have to use the restroom.
I'm going to end it right now.
Okay.
Current is the knowledge of how to fare what ought to be fared and how not to fare what ought not to be fared. I am very honored to be your friend.
I'm honored to be your friend.
I'm so glad that you have brought your story to us, and there's going to be more to talk about. So you go to the bathroom. I thank you again. Joker out.